Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Gameday Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, joined as always by the man I envy the most in the wintertime, Todd from Florida. How's it going, man?
It's going good, Sean. How you doing, brother?
Not bad. It's the weekend, so I don't have much to complain about for once in my life.
It's the freaking weekend.
And we're about to have some fun as,
Yeah.
R. Kelly? Was that him?
Hell if I know, brother.
The keys to ignition? I don't know. Whatever. I think it was R. Kelly. I could be totally wrong. So this is one of two we're planning to film this weekend. We just kind of realized that we only have, 2 weeks before hockey season. And
12 days.
And we still need to break down the entire Eastern Conference, what we think is going to happen. So we were like, shit, we should probably do that. So here we are. And we're going to be predicting how we think the Atlantic Division will pan out. So
Sounds about right.
I'll you do best, man. Have at it.
Alright, same format as our last time. I'm going to go through from last place to first place, who I think is going to do what.
From first to last?
Why go over their team. Other way around.
Okay, right.
Although it's a good band. That's Skrillex, before he became Skrillex.
Indeed it was. Was.
But, little to no surprise, pretty much everyone probably knows this. I have Ottawa finishing last place in the Atlantic. I have Ottawa finishing last place in the league.
Okay, real quick. Speaking of, because now we did, if you're a hockey fan at all, you know by now that they traded Carlson to San Jose. And we touched base on that last episode. We also touched base on Max Pacioretty going to Vegas. With those moves, does that change your perception at all of how you think the Pacific will pan out?
Not really, because I had San Jose finishing first to begin with.
Okay.
And I think that's just going to reiterate that. I also had Vegas finishing second. I think that's going to make it easier for them to really grab that second spot. But luckily, I think the way it fell, my teams that I already had laying where they were just got more of locks to be in that position, I think.
Yeah,
So.
That's a good point. Okay, well, anyway, last place Ottawa. I don't think anyone would really argue that one with you.
No, it would be hard to. They finished 28, 43, and 11 last year, which was good for 68 points, and obviously missed the playoffs.
Jesus Christ.
And here's the reason I have them missing or finishing dead last this year. Subtractions, things they lost in the offseason. Mike Hoffman and Erik Karlsson. That's two players you don't want to lose.
They're like your two best players, pretty much.
I guess the only one you can make an argument is Mark Stone.
Sure, yeah.
Is maybe better than Hoffman, but yeah, other than that. All they added in terms of roster players were Tierney and DeMello, and they did add Kachuk. I'm counting him because even though he came in the draft, because he looks like he's going to make the roster this year. So they did get other pieces back for Karlsson, but none of them are going to be roster pieces this year. A lot of them are picks and then some prospects. Same thing with Hoffman. So as to what their lines look like, from what I found online, their first line looks like it's going to be Zengel, Duchesne, and Stone. And then Kachuk, Tierney, and Ryan as their second line. Bodker, Brown, and White as their third line. And then Smith, Chalapik, and Pyatt as their fourth line. I'll be completely honest with you. On paper, I don't think Ottawa is still, even with the losses they have, I still don't think they're the worst on paper team in the division, or in the conference, or whatever, division, sorry. But I just think this entire organization is a dumpster fire. I think none of these guys are going to want to play for this team. Stone's going to be out the door as fast as he can blink. Duchesne's going to have no reason to stay at this point. And there's just not going to be a lot of cohesion in that locker room.
Well, I don't know if you saw the recent interview with their owner, but if you watch that just really just reaffirms how much of a mess that whole organization is. Did you guys see any of that or no?
I didn't actually.
Oh my god, it's actually pretty funny. Just how tone deaf the guy is. Like, first and foremost, he is wearing a Sens jersey that is actually like literally 10 years. It's so old that it was a Reebok jersey, which obviously no longer like even makes the league's jerseys.
Yeah.
You would think the owner would.
Have an up-to-date jersey.
You would think. You would think. But apparently he won't even shell out the money for a new goddamn jersey. Um, and then he's just I mean, I guess as the owner, what's he supposed to say? Yeah, we're gonna suck. I mean, he can't say that. But like, he's just saying like, yeah, I think we're gonna be pretty good, and you're like, bro, like, come on, like
You could just admit you're in a rebuild. You know
you're
what I
out of
mean?
your
Like,
yeah. And then the best part was he was saying, so he was like acknowledging fans freaking out about saying how they think that like, oh no, like we're gonna get relocated and blah blah blah, and he's like, trust me, that's not gonna happen. But like, he was the one that brought that up. He like, remember, I don't know if it was a
yeah.
year or two ago, he was saying something like if fans didn't improve their attendance that he'd have to consider relocating. I'm like, dude, you started those freaking rumors. What the hell?
Yeah.
So, dude, Melnick's he's just an idiot. He always has been, and he they just suck. Whatever.
I hear you, man. Yeah, like I said, I mean, on paper, I don't think this is the worst offense out there. I mean, Duchesne as your 1C, you could have worse than that. Stone's still a really good winger. Tierney is a pretty good player, even though he's not worth Carlson, which is what I you up for. But
No.
and then Kachuk, Kachuk looks like he's gonna be a pretty good player coming in too. But like I said, other than Kachuk, because he's a rookie, what do any of these guys have to play for?
No, they don't have anything. I mean,
Oh,
my ultimate question that I think of out of all that is how much Chuck could a Kachuk chuck.
yes.
That's really all I got.
Now, on defense, they got Shabbat, Cece, Walanen, DeMello, Boriecki, and Weidman. This is another reason I think they bottom. Not one of those guys I think is worthy of a top four spot except for Shabbat.
Yep.
not not one of them. Maybe CC, like if he's your number four, I guess that's not the worst thing in the world, but
He's pretty
he's your number
solid,
two right
but
now.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he's not a top two guy. There's no way.
yeah. In net, they've still got Anderson and Condon. There's been rumors for forever that they're going to trade Anderson, which wouldn't surprise me.
What is
Might as
he
well
like?
they trade everybody else.
16? Is he like 60 years old now? Good God.
38, I think, 37, somewhere in there. He's he's edging on 40, but
He feels
and they do
older.
have
I don't know why.
11.48 million cap space. Not surprising.
Yeah,
Melnick's not
well,
spending money.
no, hell no. He's just spend a dime. He won't even buy a jersey.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not looking good for Ottawa. And on top of that, they don't even have their first round pick next year. It belongs to Colorado. So if they do completely tank and suck and finish last, guess who gets that pick? Not them. But
Well, hey, maybe they can just get some weed, out of Colorado. They're gonna need it.
shit, just a better return than they got when they got Duchesne. But all right, moving on from the laughingstock of the league to a team
Yeah.
that I just think is going to be really bad this year. The Detroit Red Wings.
Ah, forgot
I
about
have them in
them.
seventh.
Yeah.
30, 39, and 13 last year. Only good for 73 points. Obviously didn't make the playoffs. Um, one of the biggest things that happened this offseason in terms of their development as a team, Henrik Zetterberg is officially being forced to retire due to injuries. He's got a degenerative back issue, and he's not going to be able to go this year. And pretty much has confirmed that he's probably not playing in the NHL ever again.
Yeah, that sucks, but I mean, Zetterberg was obviously much past his prime, so I don't think it'll. I could see it being felt a little bit through leadership, but in terms of production, not a big deal. But
Well, the only real significant additions they made in terms of roster spots were they signed Bernier to be their backup goalie, and they drafted Zadina, who I think will make the roster opening night. Um, their lines that I have to start out with, I've got Mantha, Larkin, and Zadina on the first line. I think they'll go ahead and give Zadina first line minutes and see what he can do. But and that's a decent enough first line. Probably more ideal as the second line if you're a contending team. But for Detroit, they'll take it. Here's where it falls off, though. Todd Bertuzzi.
no, wait.
Franz Nielsen and Tyler Bertuzzi. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I was making sure.
Tyler Bertuzzi, Franz Nielsen, and Michael Rasmussen is their second line that I have. Ouch.
Wait. What about Anthony Seo?
Anthony Seo is the center. I have him as their third line center.
Oh.
Alongside Vanek and Nyquist. And then Applicator, Glendening, and Helm.
Wait, who's the second line center?
Nielsen. Franz Nielsen.
Oh,
I mean, realistically, those two lines will probably bounce back and forth. They'll get about the same amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why they would want Franz on the second line, but like Anthony Seo is really good. Like I would play him. I'd play him higher up.
I really wouldn't be surprised to see Vanek, Anthony Seo, and Nyquist get more time.
Yeah.
Than Nielsen, Rasmussen, and Bertuzzi. And it's probably just two third lines, really. And then their fourth line is Applicator, Glendening, and Helm, which I guess is okay as a fourth line.
Yeah.
On defense, they got DeKaiser, Green, Erickson, Daly, Cronwall, and Hronik, which I think is one of their prospects. Finally looking like he's going to make the roster this year. He's not a guy that was on the team last year. And in that, they have Howard and Bernier. Somehow they only have $4.3 million cap space with that atrocious of a roster in place. And it's probably because they're giving guys like DeKaiser $5 million and Helm $3.5 million. And,
Well, yeah, I know we've talked a few times about how we're just confused because, like, the Wings, they really just need to accept the fact that they need to rebuild, but then, they go out and get guys like Trevor Daly and, like, older players, like, almost as if they're trying to, like, fill in some... Huh?
Vanek?
Yeah, Vanek, like they're trying to fill in spaces for like a push for the play. I just don't get what they're doing. They seem kind of stuck in between what they want to do. They had a great run, man, for like 15 years, basically.
25.
Like they. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, it's a good point. Like at some point, you just gotta, like, even the Patriots are gonna have to rebuild someday. You know what I mean? Like, they just needed to do it.
Yeah, I hear you, dude. It's well past time. They've got some young guys on there that they can build off of. That entire first line, I think they're all under 23 or 24. Mantha, Larkin, and Zadina, so there's some hope from the future. But when you keep filling it with guys like Nielsen and Vanek, Nyquist, Helm, Applicator, and mind you, they're overpaying every one of those guys, except for maybe, I think Vanek doesn't make that much because they just signed him this offseason for a cheap deal.
Yeah.
But all those guys are overpaid, and I don't know, man. It's a mess, but I think this is the worst on-paper team in the Eastern Conference. That said,
I can see that.
I still think they're going to beat out Ottawa.
Oh,
because
yeah.
of just how bad Ottawa is with the dumpster fire stuff. But, I mean, the most talented player they have on their team is Larkin. And, I mean, Larkin's a good player, but Larkin's not going to carry you to the playoffs by himself.
Nah. Yeah. Agreed.
But, moving on to sixth, I have the Montreal Canadiens. 29, 40, and 13 last year. Good for 71 points, so they did actually finish below Detroit last year, but I think they've had a bit better of an offseason than Detroit has. Obviously, Montreal did not make the playoffs last year. Additions for this offseason, they did pick up Thomas Tatar in the Pacioretty trade, along with Nick Suzuki. I don't think Suzuki will make the roster this year. He's still kind of young, still a prospect, but he's a good enough prospect that I wanted to put him in that list because it does mean they've got some hope for the future. Kokaniemi, they drafted him at 3rd overall in this past draft. With the injuries they've got going on right now, it looks like he's probably going to make the roster out of training camp. And then they picked up Steve Mason and Joel Armia in a trade with Winnipeg. Guys they lost Galchenyuk. They also picked up Domi. I don't know why I didn't put him on this list. I put Galchenyuk in the subtractions, but I forgot to put Domi on the additions.
Huh.
They lost Galchenyuk in that trade. They lost Pacioretty, obviously, who was their captain. And then they lost Gabriel Bork. So...
Yeah.
Lions.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Good. No, good.
I was just say, I mean, I'm pretty much there with you. Like, it's hard to see them doing worse than the Wings in Ottawa, but I don't see them having a great year, though. But
no, I don't either. But we take a look at their lines, though. This is kind of why I have them as high as I do. The first line is Domi, Drouin, and Armia, I believe it's going to be. Which isn't terrible. I mean, Drouin's probably a 60-point guy. Domi could recover to be back to a 20-goal scorer, given that he's going to get the ice time now with the new team. Although he is suspended right now for the rest of the preseason. Did you see anything about that?
yeah, I did.
Sucker punch that glad? Yeah, that was a good look, Domi.
Yeah, just like his old man.
But second line, I have Tatar, Kokaniemi, and Gallagher. That's really not a bad line if Kokaniemi can play at the level they think he's going to be able to play at. Yeah, I mean, that's a solid top 6. It's not a great top 6, but it's better than Detroit's top 6, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then third line, I have them playing Lehkonen, Danault, and Hudon, and then Byron, Pekka, and Sherbak on their fourth line. Defense is really, really where Montreal is extremely weak. They have Mate and Jolson, Riley and Petrie, and Alsner and Schlemko. Price and Niemi in net. Shea Weber being hurt definitely hurts them because they really have nothing on defense without Weber. Mate's decent. He's looked like he's going to be a pretty good top 4 guy. But outside of that, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Carey Price is good, but he ain't that good. He's not gonna. He needs a little help.
And his contract is really weighing that team down right now.
Oh,
they only have
ridiculous,
$6.8 million cap space.
What did they give him? Like 10?
10.5.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No. Just no.
Pretty rough, but I mean, like I said, I think on paper their roster is probably better. It's definitely better than Detroit's. It's probably better than Ottawa's too, but it's still not a great roster. They're still missing a lot of pieces, especially down the middle, because Drouin is not a true center. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, you know, like I recently just saw something about them. They want to pretty much ensure that you know, he plays on the wing. He's a good player, but he's not a center. He's just not really built for it. You know, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess they could probably try to put Danault there and then maybe move Armia down or something. They can play around with it, but it's they don't really have a lot down the middle, and without having a solid team down the middle, it's pretty hard to do anything in this league. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to 5th, I have the Buffalo Sabres.
All right.
This one's kind of risky. I've bet on Buffalo before, and they've proven me wrong before. But with the off-season they've had, man, I just can't put them below any of the 3 teams I have below them. They did finish 25, 45, and 12 last year, which was obviously the worst team in the league. 62 points. However, in terms of what they've added this offseason, first off, Rasmus Dahlin.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. Rasmus Dahlin is supposedly the best defenseman to come into the NHL since pretty much Nick Lidstrom, if you listen to any of the analysts.
Right.
So that's a pretty good piece to add. And then on top of that, man, they've got a long list of additions here. So Jeff Skinner, they did acquire him in the offseason. Tage Thompson, Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sobotka, Connor Sheary, Matt Hunwick, Carter Hutton in net. A drastically different team than what we saw with the Sabres last year. Subtractions, they did lose Ryan O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
They did lose Robin Lehner, and they did lose Chad Johnson. So their net's completely different. Lehner and Johnson are both out. They're going with Hutton and Olmark. Kind of risky. I don't think I've ever seen a team let both of their goalies walk in one offseason.
Yeah, you don't see that. You usually don't see that.
But I mean, what does Buffalo have to lose, realistically? So their lines, I've got Skinner, Eichel, Reinhart. That's a pretty scary first line. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of talent. Skinner's a 30-goal scorer. Eichel's a franchise talent. Reinhardt's proven to be a pretty damn good player in himself. Second line, Connor Sheary, Casey Middlestat, who everyone's saying could end up being the winner of the Calder. Calder? Best rookie trophy, whatever the trophy is for the best rookie. They're saying he might end up taking that this year. So, and then Okposo on his right wing. Willie Nylander, or not Willie Nylander, Alex Nylander, that Nylander. Alex Nylander, Patrick Berglund, and Tage Thompson on the third line, and then Rodriguez, Sobotka, Pominville on the fourth. That's a solid lineup, man. It really depends on Nylander and Middlestat because they're both rookies, how well they're able to play, but they're both pretty high-name prospects. So, outside of that, Pominville on your fourth line, you could do worse than that. Same with Sobotka.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the very least, they're not going to be as bad as last year, obviously. And
No.
That would be virtually impossible.
No, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs just yet this year. I think there's too much talent ahead of them in the Atlantic. I think they're probably going to come in around, I would say, 80 to 85 points.
Right. I think if they get really lucky, they might sneak in, but even then, it wouldn't really matter. But
yeah, but I mean, it's improvement. On defense, I have Dahlin playing with Ristolainen. I don't think you draft Dahlin and don't play him on your first pair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might as well.
And then Scandella and McCabe and Beaulieu and Bogosian, Hutton and Olmark and net with they have 4.41 mil in cap space to play around with too. So they're not up against it, and if they are looking like they could make a push toward the deadline, they could make some moves if they had to. So.
Yeah, I think if anything, their issue obviously probably will just be goaltending because they're pretty solid everywhere else, but when you don't have that pretty clear-cut number one guy, you're probably not gonna.
Well, they're banking really hard on Hutton after the year he had with St. Louis last year.
Right.
That could work out for him, but it's also bitten teams before. We see Carolina with Scott Darling.
Yes.
Banking on a backup that played really well for a year to be able to come in and play as a starter. Not always going to work out, so we'll just have to see. Yeah, that probably is their biggest question mark right now. I think their offense is good. I think their defense is a lot better with Dahlin. But we'll just have to see. You know what I mean? They've let me down before, though. I said last year I thought they would pick it up, and we saw what happened. So.
Right.
Moving on to fourth, I have the Florida Panthers. 44, 30, and 8 last year, 96 points. They just missed the playoffs. I'm talking like 1 point away from the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that.
However, they didn't lose anybody. Didn't lose any roster players over the offseason, and they added Mike Hoffman, and Troy Brouwer. So.
I wish they added Matt Hoffman.
That would be sick. He's just out there doing BMX tricks on the ice while everyone else is playing hockey.
I wouldn't hate it. That probably happens in some league over in Russia.
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me. In terms of lines, I've got them Huberdeau, Barkov, Dadonov. That's the same first line they ran last year. No more reason to change that. Hoffman's not good enough to push Huberdeau out of that spot. So, um, second line, I have Hoffman, Trocheck, and I think Owen Tippett. He's been a prospect of theirs for a couple years. I think he might finally be ready to make the push up to the big leagues. So, if not, they'll probably slot Bukestad into that spot. Third line, I have right now Frank Vetrano, Bjorkstrom, and Bukestad, and then Mulligan, McCann, and Sevey are on their fourth line. They do have Brower in their wings, so he might come in for Mulligan. He might come in for Bukestad if Tippett doesn't make the roster. But overall, that's a really solid offense, man. That offense is pretty much the same one they had last year, and they almost made the playoffs, but they added Mike Hoffman. And Mike Hoffman is a really good top six forward when he wants to play. So.
Oh yeah, that is very true. Yeah, the Panthers. You know, it's kind of hard to tell with them because they have a lot of good players and they seem like they should be a good team, and then they seem like they kind of struggle every year. I mean, God, when's the last time they made the playoffs? Do you know?
I think they made it 2 years ago and got beat by the Islanders in the first round.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, again, it's rough for them because
they always seem to be one of those bubble teams. They're either right there, just miss the playoffs, or they make the playoffs but lose in the first round.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them. They're it's just the Atlantic has three really, really good teams in it right now, so it's not really gonna help them. But you never know.
But on their defensive core, they do have Keith Yandel, Aaron Ekblad, Matheson, Pissick, and McCoshin, Petrovic. They still got Luongo and Reimer in net. Bobby Lou, I don't know when he's going to quit, but I'll tell you this. Watching him the last couple of years, I've really drastically, before that, underestimated how good Robert Luongo is. And
he's pretty damn good, man.
Good goaltender. Sorry. Dude puts up some insane stats. I mean, he's pretty unreal. They've only got 2.8 million cap space, so they don't really have a lot to work with. But I don't think they're probably... Florida's not really a team that usually goes out and makes any big name acquisitions at the deadline or anything like that anyway, so...
Right. That they are not.
Yep. And then I guess we're up to 3 now, and this one probably will surprise you a little bit, Sean. Who would you pick at third if you were doing the list right now?
I don't know. That's a good question. I personally might. I don't know, man. Maybe Toronto.
That's actually who I have.
Okay. Well, we are at agreement.
We are. Now, this is the one, probably everyone wants to talk about it because we all know what Toronto did in the offseason.
Yeah.
And that's sign John Tavares. Tavares is one of their... let's start with this. They did finish 49, 26, and 7 last year, 105 points. Made the playoffs, lost in the first round at Game 7 to Boston. But the reason everyone's so high on him right now, they did add, like I said, John Tavares in the offseason. They also picked up Tyler Ennis. Not really anything that gets noticed that much when you have as big an acquisition as Tavares. They did lose some pretty big name guys. They lost JVR, Van Riemsdyk.
Oh, yeah.
And they lost Tyler Bozak.
Yep.
But when we go over their offensive lines here, you'll see why a lot of people are high on them. The first line they have is Marleau, Tavares, and Marner. And then they follow that up with a second line of Hyman, Matthews, and Nylander. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That is a really, really, really good top 4. Or top 6, sorry. And in the third line, Johnson, Kadri, Kapanen, and then Ennis, Lindholm, and Brown. Um, so kind of falls off a little bit in the bottom six. I think they're gonna miss. They won't miss Bozak because they replaced him with Tavares, and that drops Kadri down to the third line. They might miss JVR a little bit at the wing though. I know JVR wasn't a third liner for him, but he was able to push some of their talent they had down to that level.
Right.
So where I really think that it falls off the rails and why I have Toronto finishing third behind these other two teams is their defense. They got Morgan Riley, who we know is a really good defenseman. But behind that, Zaitsev, Gardner, Hainsey, Dermott, Carrick. And then Frederick Anderson and Curtis McElhaney in the net. I just don't think that defense is good enough to get you past Boston and Tampa.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say is I assume that if you did have them third, it was for the same reason that I did. And, dude, they don't have defense. Yeah, I mean, it's not only that. I mean, Frederick Anderson is a pretty good goalie, but, coupled with a lackluster blue line, I don't know that, I have a whole lot of faith in him either. I mean, I think he can steal you a game here and there. Is he going to steal you a series? I doubt it. But yeah, I mean, we said before. I mean, obviously, you have the opportunity to get a player like Tavares. You're not gonna say no. I mean, I understand, but it's just not what they need. They need defense. Most of the time, you're not going to score your way to a championship, and that's kind of what happened to them in the first round against the Bruins. I mean, they scored 4 goals, I think, in the last game of that series. That should be enough to win you a playoff game. The problem is they gave up 7.
Yeah.
So.
And that's going to be a nightmare net matchup for them this year. Is teams like Boston, teams that run that kind of heavier bruiser style of hockey but can still score.
Yeah.
Because that's going to slow down their offense, and they're not going to have the defense to back it up. They do have $7.3 million cap space. That said, they're not going to spend a dime of that because they do have to re-sign Matthews, Marner, and Nylander at some point in the next 2 years.
Well, okay, I mean, they're not going to trade Matthews, obviously. What they should do is trade one of those other two for a defenseman.
Probably. That would probably be the best thing, but...
Yeah.
I mean, that would probably slide Kapanen up to your top 6, which I guess isn't the worst thing in the world. They could definitely get by with that, so... I think it would be a smart move. Are they going to do it? I don't know. I think they're really high on all 3 of those young guys. But, I mean, like you said, I doubt they're going to be able to afford to keep all of them anyway, so they might be forced into a making move.
Yeah, for sure. And not to mention, it would be classic Leafs to get Tavares and, everybody thinks they're going to be this crazy powerhouse and, maybe even win the cup, and then, and them underachieve. It would be classic Toronto. So
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be a playoff team. There's really no doubt about that.
Yeah.
They're better than Florida. I mean,
well,
they're going to be a top 3 team in the Atlantic. They're going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to finish with over 100 points. I still don't think they're going to be a cup team. I still think, depending on who their first round matchup is, and given that I'm predicting that it's going to be the team we're going to talk about next, I still think they're probably a first round exit. And I actually heard this today listening to Tim and Sid. I don't know if you ever watched them. They're on Sportsnet. They do a talk show there. About
yeah, I've heard of them.
I was watching them on YouTube, and Sid informed me that I did not know this. Toronto has not won a single playoff series since 2004.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I like what they've done the offseason. Honestly, anytime you can add a guy like Tavares and not lose anything for it, it's a good move. I just don't think that that was their problem. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
were already getting
exactly.
up and scoring. Um, so I don't know. I guess we'll see. But anyway, I have Boston finishing second in the Atlantic. Kind of boring because I have pretty much the exact same order as last year. Especially in the top four, it is the exact same. But I still don't think Boston is a better team than Tampa. They did finish 50, 20, and 12 last year. They finished a lot better than I thought they would last year. 112 points. They lost in the second round to Tampa. The offseason, not really a lot going on, man. They added some depth guys, Kampfer, Wagner, Nordstrom, John Moore, Yaroslav Halak. They lost Adam McQuaid. They lost Anton Khudobin in net. One of the biggest things is they haven't re-signed Rick Nash yet, and Rick Nash looks like he might just be retiring at this point. So.
Oh, Slick Rick.
Their lines, they've got probably. I really don't think we can argue with this at this point. They probably have one of the best first lines in hockey in Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's disgusting. Jake DeBrusk, David Krejci, and Ryan Donato on their second line. Danton Heinen, Frederick, and Backus on their third line. And then Nordstrom, Corrali, and Wagner on their fourth. Defense, they got Chara, McAvoy, John Moore, Brandon Carlo, Torrey Krug, and Kevin Miller. And then they got Raskin, Halak, and net. And $5.7 million to play with, which we all know Boston's not afraid to make moves at the deadline if they have to. So.
Right.
I don't know, man. Boston's just one of those teams. On paper, I don't think this is a better team than the Leafs. I mean, they got a better defense, but this offense is nowhere near as good as the Leafs offense on paper. But Boston just plays that style of hockey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so hard to match up against.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know that all too well. You being fans of the Pens, they always seem to get the Penguins a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're not the only ones. They give a lot of teams a lot of trouble, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's part of it is, I mean, they have a great defense. They really do. Chara, McAvoy, Moore, Carlo, Krug, Miller. That's a deep defensive core. But then they've also got guys like Bergeron, Krejci, these forwards, Backus. These forwards that play really great defensive games, too.
Right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, they've got a really good goaltender in Rask.
Right. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is I think Rask will be a largely determining factor. He didn't have a great season last year. There were some like areas of time where he just seemed like he was off his game.
Yeah, I mean, Khudobin was starting at one point. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I think if Rask can have a good year, they could go even farther into the playoffs than they did. But that's who knows with goalies?
Yeah.
They're very streaky. So
they can be, but I don't know, man. Like I said, on paper, if I had to pick, I would say Toronto has a better team, but I just don't think Toronto's defense is going to make up for their, I don't think their offense, how good they are, is going to make up for their lack of defense. And Boston, while they do have, a really good defense, that offense can still score.
Oh, yeah.
Marchand's going to put up 80 points. Bergeron's going to put up, probably 75, 80. Pasternak as well. So,
right.
They're going to be a good team. I think they'll probably finish around the same place they did last year. About 110 points, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have them behind the team that I have first in the Atlantic. One of the best teams in the league, could very well win the President's Cup still this year. Tampa Bay, dude. Just can't say enough about what they've done to build this team. 54, 23, and 5, good for 113 points last year. They won all the Eastern Conference Final, lost to Washington, who ended up winning the Cup, obviously. They've only lost Chris Kunitz and Jake Dotchin in this offseason. And even Dotchin, they just cut, basically. They waived him to buy him out.
Mm-hmm.
They did pick up Andreoff from the Kings, I believe, is where he was playing before. Um, but man, they've just got a solid lineup all around. Their top six: J.T. Miller, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat, Braden Point, Yanni Gord. Um, that's that's really good. That's the only thing I can say about it.
Yeah.
Gord's the only guy that you could maybe say probably might not belong in the top six, but I really think Yanni Gord is perfectly fine there. Um, they do have a really good bottom six as well. Killorn, Anthony Cirelli, Tyler Johnson, Andreoff, Paquette, Callahan. They do have Adam Ernie as well. He might end up taking Callahan's spot. I think they're going to prefer to play Callahan for the fact that they're paying him $5.6 million. And that's a rough cap hit to have sitting in the press box. But if he struggles, they could swap Adam Ernie in there. And then on defense, there's just a stacked Victor Hedman, Anton Strawman, Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev, Slater Cuckoo, and Dan Girardi, and then Vasilevsky and Dominion Net. I don't know if you heard this recently. You did hear that Yzerman stepped down as their GM, right?
Yeah. Did he say why? Like, was there any specific reason?
No. He didn't give a reason. The main thinking is that Detroit isn't going to bring Ken Holland back after this year, and he's going to go be a GM for Detroit because that's where he played his entire hockey career at.
I see.
That's kind of the prevailing rumor. He hasn't confirmed or denied that one way. He said he did it to have more time with his family, and he's still staying on in an advisor role. But that's just hockey talk. I'll say that. But that said, even if he does leave, Tampa really can't thank Yzerman enough for what he's done to build this team. Because when he came in, they did have Stamkos. They did. I think they already had Hedman. They had some pieces, but out of the draft, he's found guys like Braden Point in the third round. Tyler Johnson was undrafted.
Right.
Andre Palat, I think, was a third-round pick. These guys are superstar players at this point, and he's just bringing them out of nowhere. Kucherov was a late first-rounder, I believe. A whole bunch of teams passed on him. He was, the third highest scorer in the league last year?
Yeah, he was up there.
So, this team, man, and on top of that, Vasilevsky, I didn't even bring him up. He was up for a Vezina. And he was a third-round pick as well, I think. It was a late-round pick. He wasn't high.
I'm not high.
They have done an insane job of building this team for the draft, and they are a deadly team right now. And none of these guys that I have on here, except for Sergachev, need a new contract anytime soon.
Right.
So they're set up pretty nice. Now, like I said, Sergachev will come up, Point will come up eventually. They may have to move some pieces out next, but they should have another 1 or 2 years with this roster to go and win a cup. And that's really what they need to do at this point. They've got everything they've got. They've got, the regular season success. They just need to get past that last hump and win that cup.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate question: is can they do that? It's kind of hard to imagine that they won't before their window closes. Like, they're just so talented. But I don't know. It's always seemed like they're missing something, and it's hard to even say what it is.
I think they've had a string of bad luck, dude.
Well, that's certainly been part of it. Obviously, 2016 they didn't have Stamkos.
Yes. And as I was about to say, as big of a Pens fan as I am, if they have Stamkos in that entire series, that series might not go that way.
Right. It's possible.
The year after that's the year that they had lost everybody. You know what I mean? Stamkos missed the whole year. Kucherov missed a whole bunch of time. That's the year they missed the playoffs. But they just so many injuries. And then last year, they just hit a hot team in Washington. You know what I mean? They forced a Game 7.
I think what I used to say, or what I was saying at the time, was I thought that they were having trouble with Washington because they were just too much finesse. And while I do think that's true to some degree, I guess I kind of overlooked the fact that in the prior round they did not only beat Boston, but they lost the first game and then never lost again. And that's the team that traditionally gives everyone else
the finesse teams.
Yeah, they give them a hard time. So I don't know that you can necessarily say that's the case. I mean, again, I do think, I do think the Lightning are a lot of finesse, like probably more so than any other team. Maybe other than the Leafs, but yeah, I mean, the fact that they beat the Bruins, though, that's not a great theory on my part. So I do think that may have played a part, but like you said, I do think mainly they just ran into Washington, and it was just Washington's year.
It's hard for me to give Washington credit, dude, but they were just playing super good hockey in the playoffs last year, and I think 95% of it's on Barry Trotz.
Yeah, they were just shutting everybody down.
The one thing they did last year that they have never done before was that they adjusted. They adjusted in the series and played the way they need to play. They didn't play. They didn't stick with a game plan and it wasn't working. They made adjustments. And it really showed. I mean, they were just playing great team hockey all around. So yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. I get that Tampa needs to win it eventually, but I also think that Tampa has some bad luck in that they've had some injury issues and they've just run into some really good teams over the last couple of years. Which, I mean, that happens, I guess, to everybody. But I gotta think they'd win at least one in the next 3 years with that roster.
You would say it's gonna be really hard for them not to.
And I'm trying to think of teams that, at least in the East, I would think knocked them out this year, and I can't think of a lot. I guess they could run into Washington again, but Washington's got a new coach. I don't know that they're going to be able to replicate what they did. Pittsburgh is always a threat, but I mean, given the Penguins roster as they have it right now against Tampa's, I would probably favor Tampa in that series.
Yeah, you would think. That would also be my guess as well. But it's one of those things where until they do it, I'm gonna be a little skeptical.
Yeah, I hear you, and we'll just have to see. But I definitely don't think there's any question that they should, barring injuries to some guy like Kucherov or Stamkos, that they should win at least top spot in the Atlantic.
Yeah. For sure.
They're just too good to not do it. So, but that's how I have the Atlantic falling out. Do you pretty much agree with me? Did you disagree any spots?
I definitely think Tampa's gonna win it. I think you might be able to flip flop the Leafs and Bruins, but one way or the other, they're gonna be 2-3. And yeah, I mean the rest of the way, yeah, I mean obviously like Ottawa in the basement. That's a given. Was after that the Wings?
Detroit 7, Montreal 6.
Yeah, again, those two might flip flop, but I don't see them being any higher than that. I think if anything, the Sabres maybe could be a bit of a dark horse. I could actually see them overtaking Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if they don't and they still finish fifth in the Atlantic, that might make the playoffs this year. I mean,
right.
With the fall off of the Islanders and the Rangers, the Metro doesn't look as strong as it has in the last couple of years.
Right.
And really, outside of Washington, Pittsburgh, and Columbus, Philly could maybe make the fourth spot there. But it's not a given that the Metro will have somebody in the playoffs this year in the wild card. So.
Well, not to mention that things might be unraveling in Columbus, which we will get to next episode. Which I am totally fine with, but we'll get there. So, but all right, yeah, dude. Unless you had anything else, I guess we can wrap it up.
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, We are obviously planning to film another one of these here in a couple of days to recap what it'll be week 3 of the NFL. So watch out for that, and then obviously we will do our last video on the Metropolitan Division of the NHL. So just watch out for all that stuff. I am planning to go down and see the boys this weekend. I'm hoping to talk about the recently announced PlayStation Classic console. But I don't know if that's set in stone yet if we're meeting up. But case in point, just watch out for more episodes of this and episodes of the Console Space podcast. And also, I'm trying to get some more bands in for chords and consoles as well. So just watch out for all that stuff. And I guess that's pretty much it, man. I guess I will be talking to you here in a couple of days about the NFL.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, man. Thanks as always.
Of course.
Later.